What's up? What's new?
Literally nothing. Ever.
You lead a pretty boring life, Shannon. You gotta spice it up.
I don't even know how I would do that. Do you have any spices to share?
Have you tried jumping off a cliff?
Not recently. I don't think I can access any cliffs right now. They're all on private property.
I'm just saying
but
that's one conversation starter for sure. I mean, either that or walk into a party dragging a dead dog.
why? Why would you have a dog?
I mean, people are gonna ask what happened.
Oh my god.
It'll get things going. You'll have a conversation with someone. You'll make a new friend. That can spice things up in your life.
So, okay, maybe I should just start lying and be like, oh my god, Andre, today, I was, walking down the street and this car almost hit me, and then, I was abducted by a man in a hot balloon, and we found love.
Honestly, with your luck, I'd believe it.
Oh, man. No.
Hi.
Hi!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 10.
Oh my god.
Insert party effect
Yes.
here. Episode 10. Wow. Do you remember when we were younglings, Shannon, starting at episode 1 with hopes and dreams?
I don't even know if we had,
starry
did we
eyes.
have any specific hopes and dreams? I think we just wanted to talk about demons.
We did, honestly, and we just stretched at 9 episodes too far, haven't we? Regardless, here we are, and boy, do we have something for you today. So, everyone, hi, hello. This is Andre, and this is Shannon.
Oh yeah, this is Shannon. I'm
I'm keeping that in.
okay.
But today we're gonna be talking about doppelgangers, and I have some good stuff for you.
You have good stuff for me?
So, I'm
excited.
I do. So, yeah. So you probably already know some of this, but I want to clarify for the listeners. So today we're talking about doppelgangers and what exactly is a doppelganger. So a doppelganger is from the Wikipedia article mainly, which I thought was it was eloquent enough that I could quote from it. It is a non-biologically related look-alike or double of a living person, basically. That's the most technical definition, but then there is the mythology behind it. And the mythology behind doppelgangers is that they're allegedly bad omens, or that they signify bad luck. Tell me what you've heard about doppelgangers.
Basically the same thing. If you see it, it means something bad's gonna happen or you're gonna die. But another thing I like is maybe they want to take over your life, which is an interesting concept. I think that's mostly...
Honestly, go right ahead. You want to go to work and you want to take care of you want to fix the car, you want to take the brother to school. Doppelganger, take over my life. Give me a vacation.
I feel like your brother can walk to school, can't he? It's pretty close by.
Apparently it's far enough that he can't. I mean, I obviously differ and I side with you, Shannon, but
all right.
Anyway, doppelgangers come at me, but not really, because I am a chicken. So, doppelgangers, yes, that's what most people know about them. They're bad omens. No one really knows where they come from, but there are differing theories, and that is kind of what I'm going to be going into today. And then you have a case for us later on, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okie doke. So, again, they're usually seen as harbingers of bad luck, and what I found interesting that the article mentioned was that apparently ancient Egyptian mythology also had something like a doppelganger. It was called a ka, and which I guess is translated as spirit double, and it was described as this being that had the same memories and feelings as the real person and looked like them. So basically the same thing, but it's existed for longer than we thought, because the Egyptians were saying that it was a thing. So the Germans were the first. There's also records in Norse mythology of this thing called a varduga, and it is a quote-unquote ghostly double who is seen performing the person's actions in advance. And I thought that was very interesting. One, because it spooked me, because I could see in my head what that would look like to me if I saw my varduga, and it was creepy. It's imagine oh my god, how to put this? Okay, imagine you're walking up the stairs to your bedroom, you open the door, and there is you on your bed, but in your PJs, and you're not in your PJs. You just got home, and then you're like, "What the fuck?" and you freak out. And then whatever happens. Days go by. You haven't seen your doppelganger or your Varduga, and 5 nights later, you're laying on your bed, and you realize, shit, I'm wearing the same pajamas. That would be fucking freaky.
For me, it would be I would walk into the kitchen and see my Varduga eating all the food.
I don't know. That thought would fuck me up. I was like, oh my god, like it became true. That's basically what this. I mean, I don't know, like specifically how this Verduga in Norse mythology worked, but the understanding that the article gave was that was basically it. That like it was a premonition, but like in a physical form, like you could see it right there.
Do you think that your sorry?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Do you think that your pajamas like went with it too? Like suddenly they weren't in the closet anymore because he was wearing them.
Well, that's the thing. Like, that's why I said like whatever happens then 5 days later, whatever. Because I don't really know like what happens when you see a doppelganger. Like, does it just vanish?
I hope it kills you. Like, I hope that it's intense.
Like, how physical of a being is it really? Because I wonder if these things just, because there are some like accounts that I read of people who are like, oh, they turn around and then it was gone. So it's like, it's confusing, but the way I guess I picture it in my head is these things kind of just, they're really kind of, they're ethereal. They're not like fully physical. And so they could just vanish and my pajamas could just go back into my closet for me to wear later. I don't know. Almost like they're like doing it on purpose to like make you think you're crazy. Like, oh, my pajamas were back in the closet. What the fuck? Like, unless this person walked away naked, like they weren't here at all.
I mean, maybe it's I already jumping into the science. Maybe it's like a vision into the future, not necessarily a separate entity.
Yeah, and there's something that I'm gonna touch on in regards to that later. But anyway, so there's basically a doppelganger equivalent in Norse mythology, and then there's another in Finnish mythology, and that is called an etiainen, and that translates into first comer, and it's basically the same thing as the Varduga. That you can see it like perform actions that you're gonna do in advance, and then finally there is like ancient British and French folklore that also has this thing called an onco, which is another version of a doppelganger. And this one doesn't do things in advance, but like the connotation of this onco is that it is very much a personification of death, and as soon as you see it, like within a couple of days, you're dead.
Ooh, premonitions.
Yeah. Yes. So okay, now a couple of examples that I found really interesting. So there was this guy called Isaac Walton, and he claimed that the English metaphysical poet John Donne saw Isaac's wife's doppelganger in 1612 in Paris on the same night as the stillbirth of their daughter.
Oh my god.
So John Donne told this person, Isaac Walton, which I'm assuming was his friend, this story, basically. But to simplify, the claim is that this guy, a poet, saw his wife's doppelganger the night that their daughter was born, but like born dead, basically. That is a lot. And that would fit into the harbinger of like bad luck / like death thing that the doppelganger has associated with it, right? That it basically, it's a bad omen, and when you see it, it means something bad is going to happen soon, usually a death.
But like, what was the doppelganger doing? Was it just walking around?
It was just walking around. And that's the thing about a lot of these, that like the doppelganger encounters will usually be very like in passing, but the person like knows for sure what they saw, and like they can see that it's them, even if it's only for a second. I mean, you could recognize yourself, right? Yeah. Obviously. So yeah. I mean, go ahead.
One time my my extended family recorded American Idol or The Voice or something, and they waited for me to come visit to show it to me, and in the audience was just me sitting there clapping, and I'm like, I never went there. So I found my twin. She was having a better time than me.
Wait, what the fuck?
It literally looked like me.
You actually saw this?
Like, it was me. I'm not denying it. And let me tell you, I am not attractive.
Wow. Was it Miranda Cosgrove?
It was not Miranda Cosgrove. She is half Chinese. Thank you.
That I don't. One, I don't think she
Yes,
is, and
she
two,
totally is. I am no.
she
Yeah,
is.
I'm like 100%
Like,
positive.
I could see that on Wikipedia.
I'll look it up. I think that she's half Chinese.
Okay, fine. But aren't you like half Asian too, Shannon? I'm like
Yeah,
totally.
which is why I'm saying you're grouping all Asians into
I
one.
am
I'm half
not.
Japanese.
One, I didn't even think she looked Asian, so obviously I'm
What?
not.
She
I
looks
don't.
so Asian.
I just think she looks kind of like Michael Jackson.
Okay, yes, you are correct about that, which by extension you're saying I look like Michael Jackson.
Yeah, the king of pop. You're welcome. It's a compliment.
Oh my god, no, it's not.
But anyway, I think I just did like a face reveal for Shannon. Now everyone knows what she looks like.
Oh no, you're right. She is not Asian at all.
Yeah,
What?
I just don't see it.
What?
I think you think that.
She looks Asian.
You're probably projecting because people say she looks like you, and you know you're half Asian, so you're probably projecting onto her.
Also, she looks Asian. English, Irish, and French
you
descent? Are you kidding me? Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, back to less spooky things, because boy, Miranda Cosgrove.
Oh, Riley is a huge fan of her.
Oh my god, have you seen? Honestly, we stand her, but like she has a dead, like she has 1,000 yards there. I don't know if you ever seen her interviews. Watch interviews of Miranda Cosgrove.
It's because she's
Anyway.
actually Megan from Drake and Josh.
Probably the iCarly thing was a whole act. I mean, literally and figuratively. Anyway, the next story that I have, it is about this guy, right? His name was Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, and he was a famous German writer and poet. People might have heard of him. He was a thing. I don't know. You studied literature. Have you ever heard of this guy?
I think you pronounce it Johann, but no, I haven't.
Okay. Thank you, not thank you. So this guy, again, he was an author, and one day the article notes that he was depressed, but I don't think we should take that as like, oh, he was depressed, so he hallucinated something. But I'll include it anyway because the article includes it. So one day he was depressed, and he was allegedly like riding on this footpath, and he suddenly faced this mysterious person riding towards him on a horse, and he says that the person that he saw was literally him and in different clothing. So that's it. The figure soon disappeared. It rode away, and Goethe says that he found his appearance strangely soothing and soon forgot all about it. I don't know how you forget all about that. But anyway.
Did anything bad happen?
Yeah, so 8 years later, he found himself riding down the same footpath in the opposite direction to see a friend, and that's when he realized that he was wearing the exact same clothes as a doppelganger had worn years
Oh my
ago.
god, no. What?
I know. Ugh. Okay, which just like completely made me fall down like a hole. I just like sat there after I read this, and I just like thought looking at the ceiling for like 10 minutes because I have a whole full-blown fucking theory about this. Doppelgangers are, oh my god, how to explain it? They are a glitch in the Matrix.
Perfect.
They are not another you. They're literally just you, but because the Matrix glitch, it is like showing, not to you, but it is just like showing the future, and you just have people who see doppelgangers are just people who luckily or unluckily happen to be there when the Matrix glitches. And again, this makes it like, my theory makes doppelganger encounters like a 1 in a million kind of thing, because 1, it has to be glitching, the Matrix has to be glitching, and 2, you have to be there, and 3, it has to be you that it is glitching about. So again, very, very unlikely, but also it makes sense that it is very unlikely. There's not like a bunch of doppelganger encounters. They're kind of far and few in between. So that is my yeah.
Okay, when you say the Matrix, are you saying it just as like a vague coverall term for like, I don't know, something unexplained in this dimension, or do you actually mean like we're in a simulation?
I guess no. I mean, I don't believe we're in a simulation,
Okay.
so I guess I'd have to like elaborate in my head about what I mean. I just think that it is. I guess I could rephrase it as, like two dimensions are clashing,
Mm.
and when two dimensions clash, weird shit happens. And I've said that before about things like shadow people, which we'll talk about in a
Mm.
future episode, by the way. I find it fascinating. I think that shadow people are basically like the next dimension or something accidentally clashes into ours for like a second, and so we see these like shadows. They're just shadows, but they're walking
Yeah.
around, and I think it's just like someone else that's just a normal person walking around in another dimension, but because something weird happened for a second, we can see them as a shadow in our dimension. So that's what I mean by like a glitch. It could be like a dimensional thing if you believe in that.
Do you think something like that would be, and this is just conjecture, do you think we could take a picture of it? Or, because what if it's just for our eyes to see, if that makes sense? Like, only we can see it, or...
No, I don't think. Yeah, I think we could. Yes, I think we could, because I think of this the way I'm thinking of shadow
Oh,
people,
okay.
and there's pictures of shadow people. There's a couple that I think are very real. So I don't see why this will be any different. I mean, they very much, like, these doppelgangers very much seem to be like manifesting themselves in a literal physical
Yeah.
form. So I don't see why you couldn't take a picture.
I wonder if the doppelganger sees us.
Yeah. Well, shit. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. This is more complicated than shadow people, because shadow people don't see us. You know, the understanding is they don't see us. You just see them, and you get freaked out, and then they're gone.
Mhm.
But that's the thing. Like, doppelgangers, it's, it would be way more complicated to try to fit it into that understanding, because one, they're looking at you, and why aren't they freaking out?
Yeah.
Two, are they just like an evil twin from another dimension that is visiting because a glitch happened and like it gave them a doorway? Okay, shouldn't they still freak out or say something? Three, if it's not that and it turns out it's just a vision of you from the future, wouldn't it still say something? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, like when the guy was riding the horse, he didn't see himself from the past, right?
when the guy was no, he didn't. No, he just realized that he was doing the same thing the doppelganger had done 8 years prior. But like, I mean, I guess if it's a vision, it makes sense that the vision wouldn't say anything, because it's just a vision. It is not
Yeah.
physical. So, you know, I would have to take back what I said. If that is what it was, then yeah, we wouldn't be able to take pictures of it. It would just be a vision. It would not actually be a physical thing. We would just think it looks like physical, but it would be like a hologram, basically. Then that would make sense
Yeah.
why they don't say anything. But if they are a literal thing, they either don't say anything because they're like pure evil and they're not actually human, or that's it. I can't think of anything else. I mean, it would be super weird if you were like, if I had a twin in that dimension and he wasn't evil or trying to kill me or like a non-human entity, and all of a sudden we like encountered each other for a second, I'd freak out. Why wouldn't he freak out? But like all these doppelganger encounters, doppelgangers are always just like smiling menacingly or like looking at you, and then they disappear.
I
It's
mean,
weird.
I don't want to like. Okay, let's say there's doppelgangers. Well, let's say some of them aren't doppelgangers. Maybe the ones that smile at you creepily are actually like demons or something to that akin, that are just mimicking your form to scare you. I also want to say, what if, so you're suddenly realizing, oh, I'm wearing the exact same outfit of that doppelganger I saw. I'm riding this horse on the path. What if in that moment he tried to rewrite time and he just lifts his middle finger, and then in the past he sees his doppelganger flip himself off? Communication.
Wouldn't that cause like a paradox if he does that and then in the past the doppelganger sees
Maybe.
that? I mean, sorry, the original person sees that. Wouldn't then the original person 8 years ago actively try to recreate quote unquote the past by flipping himself off 8 years
Oh.
later, which then in turn would cause like a loop?
Maybe it just branches off into a new timeline.
That is so fucking weird. This is so much. I didn't know like doppelgangers would bring us into so much, because I have another branch to explore, Shannon, and that is these could be skinwalkers. Again, future
Ooh.
episode idea. These could be skinwalkers. Do you know anything about skinwalkers?
Yeah, they I think there's something about cannibalism that turns them into creatures that can transform into animals.
So skinwalkers, I mean, yes. Some people say that they're actually witches, which you're gonna love
Yeah.
that. They're actually witches that do like witchcraft, and they can become animals or literally any living being. And oftentimes they choose to replicate people to like do harm to them. Their voices are always a little
Huh.
bit off, though. Yeah, we'll talk about that some other time. But I thought that this could be it because again, skinwalkers are just humans; they're just witches, but they possess the ability to look like someone else. Maybe it could be that, although that wouldn't explain how the thing, whatever it is, knew to. I mean, it wouldn't explain how the thing has this kind of premonition
Yeah.
context attached to it, right? Because specifically this guy's story sounds very much like maybe what doppelgangers are the fucking Finnish thing or the Norse thing. They're Vardingers. They're meant to like show you something ahead of time for whatever reason. I mean, this seems pretty banal, right? It seems pretty like whatever because the guy didn't die soon after and it didn't teach him a lesson or anything. So it seems like there's not rhyme or reason for why they do it, but it seems like they do it, period. I feel like the more I think about it, the Finnish and the Norse were right. This is what they are, this is what they do. That doesn't mean that we know where they come from though. I'm still up in the air about that.
Right. And then, as usual, the question is why? Like, why do they want to warn us?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking that this could be, especially because we're talking about premonitions, right? Like something in the context of premonitions. I was thinking that it could very well tie in with the episode that we actually talked about premonitions, where I said like, well, like why? Remember the girl that like
Yeah.
died in that car accident that you mentioned? Like why did she have a premonition? Like why did the universe or whatever force give her a premonition if she was gonna die anyway? Like what use was it? And you were like, maybe there's no use to it.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just kind of a glitch. So this could tie everything that I've said kind of together. Like it could be the doppelgangers are that they're like a glitch, and glitches cause premonitions. But in the case of doppelgangers, these are premonitions that for some reason become like a physical, like literal premonition that you can see right in front of you. Um,
Do you have another thing to talk about, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So another example was Catherine the Great. She was an empress of Russia in the 18th century, and she said that one night she was lying in her bed when her servants came to her, and they told her that they thought that she just entered the throne room, so they were confused. And then like the queen like got up to investigate, and she found a doppelganger calmly sitting
Mm.
on her throne. She wasn't faced though. She told her sentries to shoot the thing in the face. The story doesn't really tell whether the bullets did anything, but Catherine died soon afterwards.
Oh my
So
goodness.
bad omen. Another one is Mary Shelley's, the author of Frankenstein. Her husband, back in 1812, he drowned in a sailing accident. But shortly before he drowned, he confessed to his wife, to Mary Shelley, that he had met his doppelganger many times. Yeah, so also like one of this guy's friends said that her name was Jane Williams, said that he had also seen Percy's doppelganger, Percy Shelley doppelganger, like walk by a window once, and he knew that like Percy Shelley wasn't actually
Oh.
there because he was like out of town or something. So yeah, the one that I mentioned earlier, the Goth one, Johann Goth. He also had a well, didn't have a friend see him, but he later like another he also saw another doppelganger later, but not his. He says this guy that like years later he saw his friend Friedrich's doppelganger walking on the street wearing Johann's dressing gown. Then Johann went home, was like, "Yo, the fuck, Friedrich? Like, were you walking on the street?" And he was like, "No, I'm not.
Huh.
I wasn't." But he was wearing the dressing gown. Like, you know what I mean? But like, he wasn't out and about. So like, that is interesting. Like, is a doppelganger just like a weird like spirit that all of a sudden like splits off you, to like walk around
Yeah.
for an hour and it looks like what you look like in that moment,
Yeah.
like, and then it just returns. I don't know. It's just, I don't like. There's so many things to think about. Um, the last one is Queen Elizabeth. So you wouldn't think that this like woman would dabble in the esoteric, and I guess she technically didn't. This is really her fault. It's like she had a Ouija board and like she called this upon herself. But she kids don't play Ouija boards, by the way. Adamantly against it. um
I'm not. Go for it, kids.
anyway. So the queen claimed that she saw her doppelganger once laying motionless on her bed. She said it was almost like a corpse laid out for presentation.
Ugh.
And she said that the experience was especially haunting because she knew somehow that these appearances were like meant to be a sign of death. So she had some knowledge of this, which is interesting. Again, like the article mentions that it could have just been that she had dementia, basically. I don't think so. I think she was pretty like in her like wits until she died, but you never know. But anyway, she saw her doppelganger shortly after this bitch died. So what's up?
I don't know. I like the harbinger idea. Something else that I'm kind of gonna talk about, like one of the theories I have is like, man, how would you explain this? I guess psychic tension, wherein like you're doing something, but you really, really want to be doing something else, and so like projecting yourself somewhere. Like when you were talking about the woman who had the stillbirth, like childbirth sucks. Maybe she was like, man, I really just want to be walking around Italy right now. You know what I'm saying? Like that's possible. I don't know how I feel about that though, because it conflicts with the harbinger thing a little bit. But I do think it's interesting, and it does tie back into the psychic thing rather than being like a dimensional fracture,
Yeah.
which I think is interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, if we ever had to like pin down like one belief that we have about this and decide how like we would go about believing this for the rest of our lives, we would have to do the same thing that we do with everything else. We'd have to be like, what do we actually believe this is, and how do we believe it works? And then we'd have to like discredit everything else as just people lying.
Yeah.
If it doesn't fit, because it's impossible to fit in all the theories. But if there's a story that credits every theory, so yeah, some of them you just have to think of as lies. It's just deciding basically like what you want to believe.
Yeah, I also feel like I'm gonna step onto skeptic pedestal just one time and say, I mean, everyone's supposed to have someone who looks like them. At least 4 people, I think, in the world right now out of billions.
I think that's like the 8 spiders a year.
Oh, that was total bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you're not. I think this is like a psychological thing. If you see yourself, you wouldn't recognize yourself, and so. I mean, I could recognize myself on American Idol. I'm not saying that was a doppelganger. Like, that was definitely just someone who looked like me, but that was because I was like, oh, like, that's an ugly bitch who's always in my selfies. Like, I was basing it off the pictures. In my head, I'm a beautiful young woman, but I know I'm actually ugly. So it's a problem.
But like, I mean, what do you mean
Like,
you wouldn't be able to
like your
recognize
face
yourself? Of course you
can't
would.
see yourself. Like, also psychologically, I think people, when they look in the mirror, they see themselves like 60% more attractive than they actually are as a survival instinct. Yeah.
Oh my god, that was such a
Well, I mean,
pill.
honestly, like, it sounds kind of true. Like, I don't look the way I look in pictures, at least I don't believe I do, and then I'm like, oh no, it's totally what I look like.
Yeah, but in defense of our faces and our psychology, pictures, it's like the fisheye effect. Like, we really like your appearance in pictures might be different because of the lens that you're using to take those pictures in. It like, because lenses can be different millimeters, it like it's gonna differ from what you really look like. So like looking at a picture and being like, well, guess that's what I look like, isn't always the most accurate thing to do, because that's not
So you're telling
necessarily
me
the
I'm
case.
not as ugly as I think I am?
Yeah, I'm like,
oh yeah, true.
or you could be uglier, by this theory. but what I'm saying is, either way, not accurate, usually because a lens just isn't what a human eye is, which I guess really brings us into the conversation of, which is like very philosophical, of like, well, who decides what something looks like, right? Like a camera is pretty objective, except it isn't, because of the lens size, which can change how things look. It can warp them a little, but again, like, why does the human eye decide what something looks like, right? Because like you said it yourself, the human eye isn't even capable of deciphering what its own face looks like. How can you trust that? Like sometimes people, there's like a thing where people when they're angry or they hate someone, they see them as less attractive. So like, really, can
Mm-hmm.
you trust the human eye, really the human brain, which connects to the eye, to tell you what something looks like? What the
Oh,
fuck is something? What does something look like?
I love when I see an attractive guy and then he talks and he just goes down like 5 points.
Yes. Um, so I mean, but obviously, if I had to pick, I'd say the human eye is more reliable than a camera, just because of what I told you about the lens. So again, I don't think that the camera is accurate. So maybe don't make yourself feel so bad. Maybe you do look as attractive as you think you look like
Yeah,
when
I
you
look
look in the mirror.
exactly like Michael Jackson when I look in the mirror.
We're in a Oscar of Michael
He
Jackson
has a
mashup. That's
song
okay.
called The Man in the Mirror, right? Yeah, it's
Yeah, is
me.
that you?
I'm his doppelganger.
Oh my god, did you like ever go see him in concert around 2009 maybe? Because maybe that's why he died.
No. Maybe he saw me.
Yeah,
2009? How
shit.
long? 10 years ago? Oh, man.
Yeah, I
I don't
know.
want to go
Yeah,
back
I
to
know.
that time. Let's not.
I know. Okay, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Let me get into a good position. Um, kind of on my back. I'm doing a more relaxed podcasting today. Got my feet
Uh huh.
propped up. Okay. Wait. Are you ready for this?
I'm
Alright, so
ready.
this is actually a pretty well known case when you look into doppelgangers. The thing is that there's a lot of, I guess, discussion on whether or not this actually happened. And the interesting thing is that there's not really any proof that it didn't, and there's not that much proof that it did. And so it's kind of just one of those things where it's like, well, we can choose to believe these few sources and kind of just accept it, or we could just be Debbie Downers and just turn off the podcast now.
I
No,
mean, you
okay.
already know what I'm gonna do, so yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Come
you're
at me.
absolutely right. All right, so I hope I don't butcher this name. It's an interesting one. So, her name is Emilie Sagee, I believe. She was born in 1813 in Dijon, France. Dijon, like the mustard.
Hmm.
So, let me see. Okay, so in 1845, Sagee is a teacher, and she's been teaching for 16 years at this point. Kind of a younger woman, 30s, I suppose. She's beautiful, she's described as nice and kind, and she gets a job at a boarding school that's just for upper class privileged girls, and it's called
Okay.
the New Elk, I think. I don't understand French. So, New Elk boarding school.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah, 16 years. Okay, so this was her 18th teaching position in the past 16 years.
Oh
18th.
wow.
And
Oh my
so,
god, I think I've like vaguely heard about this. Okay,
yeah,
go
I'm
ahead.
sure
Go
you
ahead.
have, yeah.
Yeah.
So she keeps getting fired, and I think you can
No,
probably
no.
guess why. So,
Was the doppelganger like sleeping with his students or something? Were these like kindergartners? Sorry.
oh my god, no, I think they were like middle school or like freshman girls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they were younger girls. Okay, so one summer afternoon, Emily is in her class, whatever. She pops out to the garden, which is literally just outside the window, so I'm sure her kids are just reading or something, doing whatever. She pops out to the garden to pick some flowers, and at that point, she had been teaching embroidery in the classroom, so I guess they weren't reading, they were doing embroidery. My bad. um, so her pupils could see her from the window. She was just walking through the flower beds, taking her time, enjoying the sunshine instead of teaching like she should be, whatever.
Yeah, what the hell? What kind of teaching is
Yeah, okay,
that?
and there are 42 girls in this classroom, and here's what they say that they saw when they looked over at Emily's desk. They said there was a ghostly image of Emily sitting there at the desk, still working, as though she was actually, like, doing her, like, whatever she does in her classroom. But when they just, turned their heads a little bit to look out the window, Emily was still walking through the garden. 42 girls witnessed this.
Oh my god. Ugh, I hate this.
Yeah, and that's crazy. And so, um, some of the students attempted to touch the apparition, and they said that their hands went through her like it was like cobwebs or something thick but immaterial. And over the course of her time at this boarding school, the spectral twin, I guess you could call it, would trail the class at a distance on walks. It would mimic Emily when she was writing on the chalkboard, just side by side to her. And
Hell, like would the teacher
no,
see
she
it?
wouldn't see it, but everyone else would. Like even her staff members said that they
What
would
the
see it, like in the staff rooms. And so it kind of
Ew.
this obviously she was fired from this. Um, but she knew this was an issue. Like she had been being told for years, like this is creepy. I don't like this. And from the parents of the students, they thought it was dangerous or whatever.
Okay, so was this the first school she was told this at
This
or
is just
not?
the one that's recorded. So that's kind of where it gets sketchy in terms of like whether or not this actually happened. Like, why do we only hear about the last one, I guess? But I'll
Yeah.
get into that later. So what she said to the headmaster of the school was that, because he had actually asked her about it at one point, she said, well, when I was out in the garden, like I really wanted to be two places at once. Like I wish I could also be in the classroom working, but I just really wanted to enjoy the flowers and stuff. And so that's kind of the theory of, and I guess this is really weird. So she wants to be in two places at once. The students report that when they looked at her in the garden, it was as if her image was becoming more labored and like tired. The way like I could explain it is like a ghostly image, like struggling to exist.
The one in the classroom or the one
The
in
one
the
in the
garden?
garden, which is just her. Yeah.
Oh, dude, you know what oh my god, this is so good, Shannon. Dude, I actually like had one more that I didn't tell you about, and it is basically like it's gonna fit into that theory
Okay.
very well. I'll tell you once you're done with your
Cool.
thing. That left me shook because that's exactly the thing that this thing talks about.
Yeah.
This one story. But anyway, I was thinking, what if like I was thinking like cobwebs, like that's so weird. If it was just like a ghost or something, like you would just like go right through it. Like there wouldn't
Right.
be anything material about it. But like if it's cobwebs, maybe the teacher was teaching in the classroom. She never went out. She just wished she had. So she did. Like the universe was like, wish granted. This version of you is now outside, enjoy. But like because that can't survive without its other half, like it became like withered like very suddenly, and like the classroom one didn't become withered, but because it was losing energy because it was sharing it with the other half that was outside, it like its physical
Yeah.
form like became less and less so.
Right, and that's another theory is astral projection, which is kind of what I was talking about. It's like if you want to be two places at once, why can't you? But if you can, it's just that one version is astral. It's in a different plane. It's not material.
I mean, kind of, except people can't see your astral project.
Oh,
If you
really?
believe in that, people can't see your astral
Huh.
projections. No, that's something that you'd either do during meditation or during like lucid dreaming, but you can only see it. No one else can see it. Watch the movie
I
Insidious.
mean,
It's interesting.
on Charmed, Shannon Doherty does it all the time, and everyone can see it. So.
I mean, yeah, you can think about it like that, but I choose not to think about it as astral projection. If you're gonna go like with this vein, I think it is like scarier. I don't know what to call it, but it is like a physical fucking like split of your
I think
body,
it's
and
called,
like
because I was gonna bring it up, as bilocation. It's where the spirit moves from the body. That could be it.
yes. And because spirits like ghosts, basically, think of ghosts, are things that can be seen by others. That would explain why others can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but so maybe the one in the garden wasn't physical at all, and the one in the classroom was just barely physical because it was missing a lot of its essence, you know? Interesting. That's so fucking interesting. Okay, before you go on, dude, the one that I was gonna talk about really quickly was in the 17th century. There was this nun, right? Okay, so in the 17th century, missionaries, Spanish missionaries to the New World, went to the New World, what is now like Mexico, basically, and they found that many tribes in there were already practicing Catholicism, and they were like, "What the fuck? How
Huh.
is this possible?" Like because they'd never been there before, and they like they did like detective work, and they figured out that this nun in the 17th century, her name was Maria de Agreda, she was a Spanish nun. She claimed to have taught Christianity to the Indians by quote unquote bilocating across the ocean. Bitch, Shannon, when you were talking about your teacher, I almost lost it. I was like, oh my god, this is the same thing. And the teacher is not the only case that uses this term. So that's what she said. That's what the nun said. She said that she never left her convent, and only knew the place, meaning New Mexico, that she had been at as a quote unquote savage land, but that she didn't actually go there. And her story was, good enough to convince the priests. And so they believed
Right.
her. At one point, they were gonna persecute her for witchcraft charges, which I thought was so shitty. Like, she does extra work by teaching Indians to cross the ocean, and you're gonna kill her. But they didn't. They acquitted her because they were like, "We love your story. We stand. We can totally use this as propaganda." Like I don't know, the power of like the Holy Trinity made it so that you could bilocate whatever. But anyway, that is that story.
That's interesting. I wonder if she was totally lying and some anthropologist went over there and taught them Catholicism.
I mean, possible, but like the fact that it matches with
I mean,
your
that's
story
interesting.
is just
Yeah.
yeah.
You know what's weird is while you were telling that, the nun, the image in my mind was just of the Conjuring. Oh, okay. So there's one more incident I want to talk about with Emily, which is so this is a boarding school, so like all the girls live there and stuff, and I guess Emily was helping one girl get
Mhm.
ready for a festival, like, tying her dress or whatever. And I guess the doppelganger
Yeah.
appeared and the girl was so frightened that she fainted. Which honestly, like, yeah, I would do that too. So in terms of the
Damn.
validity, I guess you would call it, of this story, it can all be traced back to a book by Robert Dale Owens, published in 1860, called Footfalls on the Boundary of Another World. And so this is kind of where I'm more prone to believe it and vouch for it a little bit, which I guess I don't know if I should, but I don't know, why not? So Robert Dale Owens was born in Glasgow, Scotland in 1801, and then he ended up immigrating to the US and he served in Congress until 1847. And so, with that in mind, I think a lot of people in Congress are probably trashed, but also, like, this isn't just some random person writing about this, it's some dude who served in our government. So, I don't know. I think that gives it a little bit more validity to talk about. So, yeah, and I thought that was interesting too that he was
Hmm.
actually, like, I don't know, accomplished, and he also believed in spiritualism, which is strange. So yeah, he served in Congress until 1847. So that's
Mhm.
something. Another thing that kind of does vouch for this story is that an Emilie Sagee did actually exist. Like, there are records of it, and she did exist in that general area. One thing that is
Mhm.
not super helpful is that the school may not have existed. It's not very clear. The main issue is that the locations that he talks about in his book don't actually line up with what the locations are. Like,
Mhm.
things would be like 40 miles away or 80 miles away. Like, it just didn't really add up. Um, so there's that. What else do I have for you?
Mhm.
Okay, and then Robert Dale Owens, he heard of this story by a witness, Baron Goldenstubble. Goldenstubble was a psychic who he said he was able to conjure up psychography, which is spirit writing, without a writing utensil, and he would perform this in many popular places. And Robert Dale Owens had gone
Mhm.
there to one of his performances and talked to him, and that's where he learned about the story. And so that's kind of a that's one of the that's like a point of contention of people being like, well, if you heard it from a psychic, like, how true can it be? So is it just a tale? I don't know, but either way, it's really interesting one, and it
Yeah.
does raise a lot of questions about what a doppelganger could be or what it means.
Yeah. I mean, I want to hear your stance though now. Like after all this that you've told me, like what is the thing like you'd most like closely associate your like stands with? Like,
Hmm.
which of the theories, like, what are the things that we've said?
I think the one that I would be more prone to believe is that it's just a glitch in the Matrix. Like, I think that makes sense to me. Like, it could just be another dimension, or it's like a glimpse into the future. Like, if our timeline is like literally already decided, then yeah, maybe it is a glimpse in the future. But I think that
Mm-hmm.
I buy the science more than just like it's an evil demon that's come to kill me. You know what I mean?
I mean, the fact that so many people like do die after it is weird, though.
I mean, there was also the stories of the Mothman and like people seeing him and dying, and I don't believe in the Mothman at all. It's just
I
silly.
mean, one, Mothman is real and he's coming for you tonight. Two,
He is so not real.
he's gonna moth all over you. And two,
I'm the Mothman.
I guess it could be a coincidence. Like the deaths could be a coincidence. You could be right. It could just be a glitch in the Matrix, and the people who die could just be because they're gonna die soon anyway. I mean, notice that none of them say like he
Yeah.
died the next day. They'll say like they died soon after, and like you know what I mean. Like that can
Yeah.
happen. There is so I would side well equal parts with that and equal parts with the bilocation. Like, what if people are just wishing like that they were somewhere else? Like the guy, like right, like Johan, maybe he like wished he was riding a horse that day, and it just took him 8 years to finally do it. Like
Man.
damn,
You know what's funny is you were so against all the psychic stuff, and now you're totally on board.
I mean, am I again? Is this
I feel
psychic?
like it is
Like,
by location. Like that's depending on something coming from you. Like you want to be somewhere else, so it has to be operated from within your brain or
hey,
spirit.
I don't. I no. I think I said that like I don't believe in people having like predictive
Okay.
powers. That's because that's really what I mean when I say psychics. When I think of a psychic, I think of someone with a crystal ball and they're trying to tell me the future. I don't believe people can do that. But I did say, remember in that episode, that I believe in telekinesis, and I think this is more akin to that than telling the future. Like you can move cups with your head. Maybe you can like make yourself like be somewhere, but by the power
You
of your
believe in
mind.
telekinesis? How come we're not putting
Of
this to the
course, yeah.
test?
MK Ultra. Hello,
Why don't you go move something with your mind and record
girl.
it?
I have tried. I've
I
tried one.
cannot handle the image of you sitting at your table trying to pour orange juice with your mind.
Especially when I was like little. But yeah, I believe in it. Like there's a lot of MK Ultra shit which talks about it, and I just think is like that's a whole other topic though that we might or might not touch on later on, because it gets like pretty like down the rabbit hole kind of shit. But like yeah, there's stuff out there like that the government was like, oh, this was never a thing, and then in recent years they were like, no, MK Ultra did happen, and obviously they didn't release documents that were like, we made people move things with their minds, but there have been like for decades witnesses who were like, yeah, they made me do this and they tortured me and I can do telekinesis but I can't do it anymore or whatever, but the point is that I did it and MK Ultra was real and this and that. And those people were saying this shit before the government was like, MK Ultra did happen, we're confirming it. So again, like when they did confirm it, they didn't release any documents that like detailed what went on in MK Ultra, but like there had already been people outspoken about it for years. So if you put the pieces together, it looks like these people are now believable, and what these people were saying was basically telekinesis is a thing. So that's my main thing for why I believe it. But anyway, back to the point. I think telekinesis is more akin to this bilocation thing than like bilocation is to like seeing this future. I don't think yeah.
Sorry, the government just broke into this house and took me. They heard what you were saying and they didn't like it.
So yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're listening to us anyway, right?
Are
Like,
they? Are they one of our listeners? Hi.
They're listening. They're one of
We
our
love
listeners.
you.
Like all the NSA is one of our listeners. They're listening. They're listening through my phone. They're
Oh my
loving the
god, I'm glad.
podcast. They stand scary talk. So,
One
yeah.
thing. Sorry, I was thinking because I actually haven't seen it yet, but Jordan Peele's You, is that Doppelgangers? Is that what's going on?
You mean us? called Us,
Is it
girl.
Us?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jordan Peele.
No, I
I'm
haven't seen it.
I'm not that
I'm
educated.
I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it with David on Saturday, and uh, I'm excited. I'm excited because Get Out was really good. Apparently, this movie is really good too. And yes, it is about doppelgangers, from what
Oh,
I've heard.
okay,
I've,
good.
I've tried to stay away from spoilers though.
Yeah, me
But
too.
I mean, honestly, like the trailer, like watching the trailer, like what else could it be about?
I don't know.
Um,
Maybe demons. You never know.
maybe demons. Like I thought maybe robots, AI, some evil
They looked
company
hungry
made
though.
replicas of this family. Yeah, so like I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things you could think about, but yeah, doppelgangers makes a lot of sense, and apparently that is what it is about.
Interesting.
Um,
Good, good.
so yeah, so I was surprised when you like brought it up last week. You were like, "Let's talk about doppelgangers," because I don't think
No,
you
I
did that on
didn't. No,
purpose.
I'd actually been thinking about that for a while. Um, yeah, I wasn't sure if it was doppelgangers on
Don't think
that,
about
but
it too
that's
much.
cool.
Yeah, don't think about it too much, though, because you might
Yeah,
see
and then I'll
yours.
just die.
Yeah. Another one. This one's just one that I just know of from like I don't know hearing about it. But did you know that Abraham Lincoln apparently like saw his doppelganger like soon before he died?
I heard that
Yeah.
too. Isn't it interesting that Abraham Lincoln has all this like connection to the spiritual world?
Yeah, like apparently he was very open about his like interest in the paranormal to like his friends and stuff. We stand like
Yeah, which
yeah,
is kind of weird because he was like totally closeted his whole life for some reason.
like literally like you thought he was gay.
No, he is. He was cheating on his wife with his security guard. It's like an actual thing.
Girl, you know that.
Yeah, it's actually
What?
from an
I've
episode on American Dad,
never
but it's
heard
totally
this.
real.
I've
It's
never heard
totally
this.
real. Look it up. He's gay. They have like love letters.
I'm shook. What? Wait, how have I never heard about this? You know
I don't
who's really
know.
gay? Honestly, you can come for me. I don't care. David Archuleta.
Wait, did you say repeat that whole sentence to me?
I said because like this Abe Lincoln thing, what you just said made me think about something
Uh-huh.
about someone else who I think is closeted, a celebrity, David Archuleta.
He's closeted. I thought that he was like out and about.
No, he's in the closet. I think he's
Yeah,
gay.
I think he is
He's
too.
like super Mormon. I think I may have like brought this up to you before because I actually like really like him. Like
Yeah.
I like his music, and everything. But yeah, like I really think that, and usually my gaydar is like pretty good. And I went to see him live once, and I was at a meet and greet with him, and I just like I have my reasons
Yeah.
basically. Um, especially because like I've met him, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
And
they just just like throwing some shade because you reminded me to do that.
you know what's funny is like I think the Mormon community actually has a very large gay community. So it's
I
just one
mean,
of those things where it's like they don't want you
right?
to, but if you are, you
Like
are.
it sounds paradoxical, but like it totally makes sense because there's a lot of people who like hate being gay, and so they repress it. And like, what better way to repress it than like become part of a religion that is like so
Exactly.
suppressive of that, you know? Um, Ooh, we're getting so political.
Ugh.
Anyway, okay. There's a whole article on Wikipedia titled "Sexuality of Abraham Lincoln." I'm gonna have to read this after the episode because I'm shook. I didn't know anything about
A
this.
lot of people don't, which I think
Um,
is interesting. It's like, why can't we just share the love? Let everyone know about Abe.
that is so interesting. I'm gonna read this for sure. Anyway, yeah. Apparently, he saw his doppelganger in like a mirror one time. But like he saw two faces in the mirror. Like
Hmm.
so like he was looking in the mirror and then there was like a face right next to him, but it was like more pale and ghostly. That's what I remember
Hmm.
from it. And basically the wife was like, "Oh, I'm interpreting that as a bad omen. It means like there's two of you, so there's gonna be two terms. Like you are gonna get reelected, but the
Hmm.
second one, notice Abe how he looks so ghostly and whatever. My love, that means you will die before your second term ends.
Oh,
So,
she
and
knew
he
about
did.
the affair. She was coming for him.
Oh my god! Oh my god, dude! Like conspiracy theory. What if like the doppelganger thing was real? He did see it, but the reason Mary interpreted that way, his wife was, or actually his wife's name was like Jane, wasn't it? No, it was Mary. It was Mary. Sorry, it was Mary. Was because um she was already planning to kill him. She hired the assassin, um because he wanted to kill Abe because she knew he was cheating on her with a
Okay,
man.
the government is knocking and they want me to stop recording. They want me to come with them in a white van. Does this sound on the up and up?
I am not saying Mary was concerned with the government at all, by the way. So that wouldn't make sense. I think she was just, what's the saying, like, hell, like, knew no rage like a woman's scorn or something like that.
Fury. Hell knew no
Yeah,
fury like a woman
yeah.
scorned.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Read that Wikipedia page and let me know.
Yeah.
Maybe she was okay with it. Maybe he was bi.
The first line from it says that he apparently had allegedly, people who lived at the time described him as having a detached relationship with women. So, it looks promising. But I'll read it. I'll let you know. And yeah, God knows what we'll find. Maybe we'll do a whole episode on
This
this.
episode went in a lot of different directions.
I know. I love it. I love it though. We'll see what we do for next one. It should be something similar because this really made me think. I really like expand it into a couple different branches, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I like new theories, you know?
Yeah, and this doppelganger, like, man, like, it really like made me shoot for like a lot of different theories, and I'm still kind of like thinking about what I want to like settle on. Yeah, by location though is pretty good. But anyway, guys, I hope you like this episode. If you have any suggestions for what we should talk about next, which actually, Shannon, I have received a couple of suggestions in our DMs. I'll let you
Ooh,
know.
by listeners or like someone you hired?
By listeners.
Oh my god, amazing.
Yeah, so guys, if you have anything, DM us. Again, we're on Twitter at Talk Scary. You can also leave us a review on our podcast on any podcast listening platform, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher. We are on our Heart Radio now. You can find us everywhere as Scary Talk Podcast. So again, leave us a review or a request or whatever, and we will see you next week. Shannon, anything else?
Let us know if you see your doppelganger. Let me know if you see me anywhere. I'm not supposed to be.
You will know you're seeing her because you already know what she looks like. Remember
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
We described
Michael
it to
Jackson
a
and
T.
Miranda Cosgrove.
Yeah. Okay. Hot take. Dancing Crazy by Miranda Cosgrove is a fucking bop. Okay? You
I
need
like
to listen to
About
this.
You Now.
I will. About You Now is all right. But it's a cover anyway. It's not even her song. It's a cover like from the Sugar Babes. Anyway, I'll send you a link to this song. It is a bop. It is an Avril Lavigne song that she just gave to Miranda Cosgrove. We need to start like a music podcast because I have so much to tell you. But long story short, have you heard it? You've heard it?
This, and I think I've already heard the conspiracies about Avril giving her all her music, right? Is that a real thing?
Not all her music, but like a lot of music, and the fact that like allegedly, like they barely bothered to take Avril's vocals out from like Avril's demos that she gave to artists, and so artists like Miranda like leave a lot of that background vocal there, and that's not really like accurate to Miranda's talent or voice, is it? So that's a conspiracy theory. I don't know if I really believe it, but I do think it's cringy how much Miranda. I'm gonna sing you this song. I think it's cringy how much Miranda Cosgrove like tries to sound like Avril Lavigne in that song. She even fakes a Canadian accent. I'm gonna send you this song. Everyone go listen to it now. Yeah, she goes like, everybody's dancing crazy. It is crazy. So I mean, I love it because it reminds me of an Avril song because it literally is. If you've listened to What the Hell, it's basically What the Hell 2.0. I mean, seriously, go listen to this song. But
this should be our theme song.
Oh my god. One, no, I'm not getting sued. But two, yes, I would love to. But anyway, Avril Lavigne is dead. No, she's not. But everyone, Miranda Cosgrove, Dancing Crazy, go listen to it. Tell us what you think alongside your request for the next episode. I am Andre, and this is
Shannon. I remembered my name this time.
I know. Good job. And don't let the bedbugs bite. Don't eat any large meals before bed. And we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.